Welcome to the Emerge 2013 conference at Side Business School in Oxford. Emerge is an annual conference which aims to connect students and young professionals with some of the leading lights in the world of social impact. And one of this year's speakers is Marc Koska, the inventor of the K1 syringe, a single-use, auto-disable syringe that has been credited with the prevention of an estimated 9 million deaths. Marc, thanks for speaking to us today. Perhaps you could begin by explaining why the idea of a single-use syringe is so important.
Well, it's not the only way we're going to tackle this problem, but it's the physical manifestation, if you like. We've got to try and give the patients and the healthcare workers a signal, guidance on the fact that the syringe has been used once and it shouldn't be used again.
Yep.
But at the moment, syringes are reused many times over, not because of anyone's fault other than the system. There aren't enough syringes in the system, and therefore you find that they're being they're forced into reusing the equipment like they would be forced into reusing a pair of surgical gloves, let's say.
Yeah.
But what we're trying to emulate is a safety belt in a car. Every car now has a safety belt in it, and let's say the belt is like the syringe. But also there's a system where you get fined if you don't wear a safety belt as you're driving down the street and a policeman sees you. So what we're trying to do is use the auto-disable syringe as the physical part of the campaign, but also build other elements of behaviour change and policy around better practice.
And how are you actually going about pushing that message? Because I was really struck by something you mentioned in, I think it was a TED talk you did about, you met a man who thought that if he burned the blood on his finger, then it would prevent HIV being spread.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like, it seems to me there's kind of a really deep level of kind of misinformation. And also this is a problem that affects millions of people all over the world. So how are you actually going to educate all of these people?
Yeah, I mean, that is a very, very good question, because many times you find that when you come in as the campaigner, the white man in Africa, if you like, and say, look, you shouldn't be doing this, they have the people who are there are in the conditions they're in, have no idea that they shouldn't be doing it. Yeah. They don't know that there's anything wrong, in the same way that we would be repulsed by the water that they take, the brown water coming out of a tap, and they would drink that because they're thirsty. We wouldn't touch it, and we would want bottled water, or we would insist on clean looking water. So you're right, there is an education and information turn that we need to put into the system. But what we are going to do is we're going to use the healthcare workers as a form of educating the public. Yeah. And we're going to gamify, we're going to incentivize the healthcare workers to carry out that step. So that if you're my patient, I would say, oh, did you know I've used a safe syringe on you today? And no, I didn't know you needed to. Yeah. Well, look, here, if you have this sticker and you collect 10 of them, you get a free coffee. Or I'm being facetious, but there's a game that we're going to be creating that would... And now I know that I'm meant to be having.
Yeah, and this is something where you directly go to these healthcare workers, or is there a role for government in this, or is it a bit of both? How does the work get
too many healthcare workers for me?
Yeah.
But what we're doing is we're working with the World Health Organization on a new global policy, and in there are different elements which will stimulate work in these different areas. And I'm just working now with, for example, one of the aspects is working with a mobile phone company on the hardware side to get the hardware out so that we can deliver a video of training to the healthcare worker. And if a patient says, why are you using this syringe, they can show them the right video in the right language and with the right colloquial language that educates the patient as well. And it could be, we might use a pop star if that's the right thing in the area, or a football player, or whatever, or a little kid. So there are going to be a wide variety, and we'll just have to work out which one is right for which situation and which country that we're in.
Okay. So there's sort of a more general question about entrepreneurship, I suppose. I sort of find it interesting that, in your words, your ignorance of healthcare system and syringes was complete when you started upon this project. It seems to be there must have been hundreds, if not thousands, of people, medical experts, who must have been thinking about this problem over the years. So, what is it about you that made you able to solve this problem without the benefit of their expertise?
Well, I wasn't trained formally to do this. I didn't have the opportunity of coming to the school or side to be structured, if you like, in my approach. So I think that was good, that I had a kind of a wide brief. I could do whatever I liked. But also I had a big push. I wasn't really interested in going to work for just money. I wasn't really in that game of trying to buy bigger and better cars. I was in the game of, from a very early age, I always knew what I wanted to do was try and find a big problem and be the intervention in that. Yeah. See if I could be the clever dick in the middle who kind of worked out the pivotal move which would change the system. And I really thought that it would be so obvious once I designed my syringe that everyone would have gone, oh, that's the answer there.
Yeah.
What I wasn't aware of, though, and that's really sort of defined my journey, is that I wasn't aware of that there were disadvantages to many different players in the whole delivery system that my product was going to push. So they were, oh no, we don't want to do that because it will cost us more money, or we don't want to do that. And actually the only person who didn't have a voice was the patient at the end. Yeah. So we've ended up with it being the 9th biggest cause of death on the planet, which is a horrendous position for a medical procedure to be in. It should not be there. Yeah. And yet, it's a very misunderstood area. So just to come back to your point as well, there are lots of far brighter and more intelligent people around. But of course, those people are usually in an area where they do have adequate supplies, and they are using a fresh piece of disposable equipment for every medical procedure, whether it's gloves or an infusion set. But of course, 80% of the world, 90% of the world live in very challenged circumstances, and they don't have that privilege of being able to open one from a fresh packet.
So it's a problem of them being able to see it from the point of view who's someone in a different part of the world to themselves, essentially. They're sort of...
It is, and as I mentioned earlier, there is a lot of issues from the policymakers at the top to finding or directing the right funds into the right direction or right area, to having the manufacturers comply and say, okay, so we're looking for win-wins at every stage of that delivery process.
Yeah, I suppose to finish on maybe a positive note, it seems to me an amazing thing that you have done this without being on the inside of the medical world. We should be optimistic that the world is getting more complicated. Everything's all technology and detailed software and microbiology and all of this. I mean, should we be optimistic when we think that just with a bit of pure entrepreneurial spirit and sort of seeing things a different way, anyone can solve a problem if they apply themselves?
Well, I think you have to have a certain amount of characteristics and features about the person that we're referring to. But of course. I mean, everyone is quite capable of being very surprising to themselves and achieve incredible things, and we should applaud anyone who wants to innovate, anyone who wants to tackle a problem, as long as they're doing it in a very sane way. So that's why something like Emerge is a very vital conference to pull these these doers and thinkers and theorists and practical applications all together, and we need more of these to inspire each other.
Brilliant. Marc Koska, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.